'Tis the season, the most wonderful time of the year. Celebration with friends and family. It's time to pay tribute to this jolly month. So join us as we get into the Christmas spirit. You've heard of Elf on the Shelf, but this is Venom on the Shelf.
A nativity play! Christmas tree! Christmas! Look, Santa! Christmas, Christmas! See, it totally counts. It's only in the first part of the film, but that it counts. Christmas. It's a Christmas movie. Fanny and Alexander. Sorry. Fanny and Alexander is a Swedish film set between 1907 and 1909 with, funnily enough, Fanny and her brother Alexander. The first part of the film takes place during Christmas at a party with a holiday play going on, but their father sadly passes away not long after, leading to an abusive stepdad joining the fray, and during all of this, Alexander escapes the torment by creating outlandish and creative stories to deal with the trauma, and honestly, there are a bunch of subplots in the midst of all of that, but this is 5 hours and 11 minutes long. We would be here all day. Not because they're in great detail or anything, but because it's 5 hours and 11 minutes long. I probably don't remember all of them, and I just don't care. Well-respected director Ingmar Bergman actually intended for this to be his final ever picture, but he did end up writing many screenplays afterwards, as well as directing some TV specials, but this did remain his most personal as it was based on his and his sister's unhappy childhood and relationship with their stepfather. Now, there's actually 3 versions of this film. One was a mere 3 hours. Mere. Another was the aforementioned 5 hours. The shortened was released first, and then the longer one was given a theatrical release in separate acts. A completely new third version was then cut up as a mini-series for television. However, I couldn't find any copies of the shorter version with English subtitles, so I had to watch the longer version. Yeah, I sat through 5 hours and 11 minutes for you people. I hope you're happy. In fact, the very first draft of the script was over 1,000 pages long, all handwritten. You know, less is better. You can write stuff down. You don't have to make a film snob movie and make it long as hell. But it shouldn't surprise me. This is the same director who wouldn't let his cinematographer leave to attend his ex-wife's funeral. Stand-up guy, that Bergman. Anyway, the film premiered on December the 17th, 1982 in Stockholm, Sweden, grossing $5 million in its homeland to nothing short of universal praise. Oh, and the kid who played Alexander obviously was so traumatized by this experience it scarred him for life since he instantly retired and never acted again. Good choice. Well, except a short appearance in a TV movie. But the girl who played Fanny also never acted again. Good choice. Now, where the hell do I begin? This has 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's noted as one of the best. It's up there with Citizen Kane as one of the pioneers of film to show at film schools. And I hate it. I'm sorry. I am genuinely sorry. Right, I'm gonna go over what I do like first so you can leave me in peace for the time being. Actually, the acting I had no problem with, and for a film that's over 5 hours long, that's quite an impressive feat. Well, other than...
Det är allt för älskvärt.
Jämta svin! Vi förbannade vedervärd! I am acting! I am Swedish and I'm acting! There is a really interesting scene a mere 3.5 hours in. Alexander starts seeing what he thinks are dead people, one of which is by a crucifix. It's actually really creepy and chilling, and it's never determined whether or not it's just his imagination, a story, or it's really happening. But again, we had to sit through 3.5 hours just to get there. There's another good scene just shy of 20 minutes later where Alexander gets punished for his supposed phony stories by his stepdad who spanks him rather violently. It's a hard to watch scene, but it's quite emotional and well shot and edited. The only issue, much like the rest of the film, is there's no genuine investment in these characters whatsoever. The only reason we care is because Alexander is a child being beaten. Nothing more is developed, and it's the laziest way to get sympathy ever. But to be fair, his mum gets threatened afterwards, but she stands up to the guy, and this is also a really nice exchange.
Du måste också veta att minsta försök från din sida att revoltera eller sätta dig i förbindelse med yttervärlden kommer att återverka på dina barns välbefinnande.
What is he, Jigsaw? The music is quite nice, it's nice and soothing, but to be fair, it's very fitting just because of how goddamn depressing it sounds. There's a funny moment where a guy wants sex, but the woman doesn't, so she just bends over and looks bored the entire time, like my girlfriend. And I'll credit its cinematography, except for here when a woman just randomly walks past the camera all creepily. The hell was that about? But for the most part, I'll compare it to The Godfather. It's simple but effective. The director doesn't overcomplicate his shots and he trusts the acting and the story. It's fine to say this influenced cinema or whatever, but the point of a movie is to entertain, and this does not. Remember when films were fun to watch? Because unlike The Godfather, this one fails the length because of the story. Or lack thereof. Look, there is no reason for a film to be 5 hours long. I mean, if your story genuinely needs to be 5 hours long, there's something wrong. Just because something is longer doesn't mean it's better. Except for penises. Just saying. Having a film this long actually shows lazier writing because you couldn't get your story across in a shorter amount of time. As explained, there are long films that I enjoy, but that's because they were well paced and just required that time to tell these stories. This has a very minimal plot and it just doesn't work. It reminds me of the likes of Amarcord. It didn't have an overall narrative, it just followed a family for a year, but the difference is it had such bizarre imagery that you could find enjoyment from it. It was just so strange and weird, it was kind of endearing. This has that for like one scene. Yeah, a grown man pulls his trousers down in front of kids and entertains them by running around farting, and for some reason they're not traumatized by this. But after that, it's just talking. Well, there's this when the statue comes to life. Yeah, I'd lay off the drugs, dude. But aside from the scenes I've complimented, there's no other interesting events. In fact, it's more frustrating because they talk about interesting events that happened in the past instead of just showing them.
Förra året tyckte jag det var roligt med julen. I år vill jag bara gråta.
Why? Show us why!
Din styvfar, min man, låste in mig och mina barn i sängkammaren. Där hade vi levt i 5 dagar och 5 nätter.
Well, that sounds interesting! Why don't you show us that instead?
Efter förra julen så fick jag ett njurlidande och fick ligga i sängs i 3 veckor.
What a fascinating story, Mark! How about you show something?
Ja, min syster gifte sig också med en äldre man.
Ja, det minns jag. Det var ett ståtligt bröllop.
Han dog 3 månader efter vigseln och lämnade efter sig en förmögenhet. Det gjorde inte Karl Henrik.
That sounds like an entirely different movie on its own! How are you 5 hours long and you've got nothing? Then there's more farting. Awesome! Jesus, the first thing you learn in film school is show, don't tell! So how goddamn hypocritical is it that they show this film that does nothing but talk and talk and talk and talk?
Tala kan man ju alltid.
Yeah, but it's usually leveled out with some kind of relevant interest.
Den tillhör kejsaren av Kina och har på egendomliga vägar hamnat i den Ekdalska barnkammaren.
He's talking about the history of a chair.
Den som nämner gåtans lösning är dödens.
It's a goddamn chair. And he even fakes out leaving just to come back and talk more about the stupid little chair. What the hell? This is the entire movie, talking and talking, and the scenes never end. They drag on for forever.
Av tradition anordnar familjen Ekdal en julfest för teaterns personal nere på scenen.
How should I kill myself?
Man ist das Licht im Geschäft und verschließt die Tür.
Suffocation?
Kära fröken Ester, är det verkligen möjligt?
Det är 43:e gången.
Maybe I could get a poisonous syringe. Car crash? A gun?
Ej mig förfärar stundande natten.
There's always the classic overdose. Yeah, that's for sure. Nothing in this film gives anyone any pleasure. And I hope you like dinner scenes because that's what most of these 5 hours consist of. You like watching people eat, you are in for a treat, eating and talking at your service. And so many times people talk about their 50th or 21st Christmas or whatever. It's my 40th one here. Who cares? That's what this whole movie is. My 21st Christmas with them. Oh, this happened to me last. That's what this whole movie is. It's exposition with no overall narrative to back it up. It's talking. It's stories that sound more interesting. Show them.
Det tror jag är Rom.
No, I think you're being really creepy. Back the hell up, weirdo. It's also bizarre that they find the maid doing this. Yeah, it's tickling, I guess. But one, the kids clearly aren't enjoying it. And two, she's clearly wrecking the place and they just find it funny and leave her to it. And then they slap the maid afterwards. Hey, Logic? Logic, are you in there? Logic? No, there's none in there. This grown woman wakes Alexander up in the middle of the night in this dress that clearly shows off her boobs, and she even jumps in bed with him. Oh, look, someone tells a scary story and they do a fake jump scare by a friend. That's never been done before.
En så satans dum liten stol! Så gräsligt sliten och löjlig. Riktigt ovanligt ful är den också. Allt som tusan hakar tror jag inte den får.
I just don't get it. I don't find it funny. I don't find it charming. I find it boring and annoying. I don't think it should be in the cinema. I don't think it should be in the book. I don't think it should be on this planet.
Det gjorde ju ingenting, men Oscar tyckte alltid det var så genant att be mig om pengar.
Trust me, this film has 4 Oscars too many as it is. I mean, right here. Look at this. All you're doing is giving us exposition about the family that a simple story could show us. Best husband, evil uncle. Who, for God-forsaken goddamn cares? And these scenes span over 6 minutes talking about nothing. I thought Boyard had no story, but Jesus Christ, Boyard looks pretty good right about now. She just starts talking about how she wants to cry. Well, so do I, but that's besides the point. Do something!
Vad skrattar du åt?
That this has a 9% lead over Shawshank Redemption on Rotten Tomatoes. There's this weird scene where I think it's her uncle having sex with her. I mean, she calls him uncle, so yeah, throw incest in there too, why not? But this is some of the cringiest dirty talk I have ever heard.
Får jag se om den? Var inte rädd, mitt barn. Jag är en härlig älskare, det säger alla frågor.
Who talks like this? Was the director a virgin? And then he says his rocket took off too early and they laugh. Yeah, no one would ever laugh about this in this situation. Not that I would know. But then he starts singing and she starts riding him. Do you know how difficult it is to have sex straight after you've just busted a nut? I guess this falls into the category of so weird it's entrancing, but because it's filled with so much padding and filler around it, it's not worth the admission. 3 hours would be torture enough, but Jesus Christ, 5? Are you Satan?
Jag tycker inte om att bli utskrattad.
Despite 20 seconds ago you were laughing because you busted a nut early, do you really expect me to take the scene seriously just moments after you broke her bed shagging? The closest we get to an interesting character is this douchebag, just for how over the top and evil he is.
Varför gifte jag mig med dig? Du är ful, fattig, ofruktsam. Du kunde inte ens ge mig ett barn.
He's so ruthless and horrible, but it's wasted on such an undeveloped character that it's not even worth it.
Fruktansvärt huvudvärk.
I know the feeling. But here's another issue. Not only do these scenes barely connect to each other, not only do they last longer than a Stanley Kubrick rehearsal, but they also go back and forth more than my ex-girlfriend and douchebag guys. I mean, this guy talks to her like crap, she barely reacts for some reason, and then he spazzes out and hurts himself, and then she tends to him as if nothing happened. This is back and forth. Douchebag nice, it's all pointless, random, sloppily cut together, and a pain in my British rectum, and it goes on for 20 goddamn minutes. How much would a hanging really hurt me? Doesn't really matter. The pain won't last as long as this movie.
Ja, du är ändå förbannat stilig.
Du är en stor skit.
Oh, burn. Okay, although the acting is mostly good, Alexander here can't even make a frickin' yawn look convincing. And how can he not when it's as boring as this? And even the credits as each part ends seem bored of themselves, no music, and they also go on for forever. The play portions, they're not entertaining either. If you think the acting within the play within the film will save it, no, sorry, it's cringy as hell and it's like watching a middle school play.
Kort vill jag vara. Bäst jag i min trädgård som vanligt njöt min middagssömn. Stal sig din farbror på mig i min stilla ro. Med saft av somebody kill me please. Somebody kill me please. Som mot män som blodet kill me.
earlier about the dad dying? Yeah, that doesn't even come into it until 1 hour and 43 minutes in! It takes longer than feature goddamn length for anything resembling a subplot to take place, let alone an overall narrative. And the death scene again holds no emotional conflict since we barely knew him. Just having a random person die doesn't automatically make us care. And of course he gives a dying speech for her to take over the theatre, and this death speech lasts 67 years as well. Even God gives them enough time to finish the conversations. It's all talking! She's obviously been forced to watch this movie off screen. Actually, it's because she found him dead, even though he was already dying and she knew he was dying. I mean, this isn't a state of sadness, this is clearly shock and confusion. A dying man died. What are the odds? Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Kära Emily Ekdahl.
Then why does this movie love them so bloody much?
Piss, skit, prutt, piss, helvete, skit. Pitt, prutt, bajs, piss, prutt, kuk.
Genius dialogue. He's describing the film. Check out this shot. She finds Hitler here. He just stares at her randomly. Fade to black. Well, that was pointless. You know, I'm glad that was kept in. It was vital to the story. It really wrapped it all together and gave it that extra kick it needed. This is what the entire film is. Long, unnecessary, boring scenes put in, and if you don't like it, you don't appreciate filmmaking and you're uneducated. Or you're not a film snob and you don't like being bored out of your goddamn mind. Entertain me, that's all I ask.
Vi leker därför att vi tycker att det är roligt.
Have you tried making a good film for enjoyment? There's not even any structure to this crap. Each act just stops randomly. There's no end, there's no start, there's no finish. Every single act, including the final one, they just stop. There's literally no pacing, no structure, nothing. I don't understand. I've heard this director knows what he's doing, but this is my introduction to his work, and he's missed so many of the basics you learn immediately in film classes.
Edvard har frågat om jag vill gifta mig med honom. Jag har med tacksamhet och glädje tagit emot hans anbud. Dels har jag länge levat ensam. Dels behöver mina barn en fast hand. En far.
That's the only reason you're marrying him. Well, you sound like a lovely person. I'm gonna pop a blood vessel.
Jag vill att du helt och hållet lämnar ditt tidigare liv.
Ska jag komma naken?
Is this funny?
Det är allvar, men älskade.
Is this entertaining?
Jag vill att du ska komma som en nyfödd till ditt nya liv.
Och barnen?
Barnen också.
Deras leksaker, dockor, böcker.
Ingenting.
Is this endearing? In any way?
Jag måste tala med Alexander och Fanny.
Det är ditt avgörande, Emily.
Jag kan avgöra för egen del, inte för barnen.
You know, this film's doing the impossible and it's making me believe in God. It really is, because if God exists, Satan has to exist. And Satan has to exist because if he didn't exist, this movie would have never been made!
Och denna kristna församling.
See, even he can't take this anymore! By the way, it's never explained why the hell he did that. I think it's more frustrating because of all the effort put in. All the great set designers, directors, cinematographers, actors, and they poured all of this money and hard work into 5 hours and 11 minutes of not a goddamn thing!
Du har nämligen en svaghet i din karaktär. Du kan inte...
Don't they all?
Jag känner en fruktansvärd ensamhet.
Why did she freak out like that? I mean, he barely touched her. And it wasn't like it was shock anyway because there was a delayed reaction. Did she just suddenly remember what film she was in? And just when you think it can't possibly get any more infuriating, 4 hours in, 4 goddamn hours, and they still decide to put the entire plot on hold to tell a kid's story. Sure, why not? Why stop talking now? Yeah, doing a slow dramatic zoom in on his face doesn't automatically make it mean more.
Barnen måste återföras till sitt hem inom 12 timmar.
Hey, nearly this film's entire running time. And this is just another repeat. Guy gets angry, gets calm, gets angry, back and forth. This film has no structure, it's just bollocks.
Jäklar, här finns ingen botten.
Check the screenwriter's room. But hey, if you want some comedy, here's Alexander, urinating on a plant. Because... funny? And if you think one fake out cliche wasn't enough, Have another! I mean, it was creepy and well edited, but more predictable than Saw 7. We're 4.5 hours into this piece of gibbon poop and you're still trying to build suspense over nothing!
Om det finns en gud så är han en skit och pissgud som jag skulle ha lust att sparka i röv.
Okay, at least that line was funny. How, just when we start to near the 5-hour mark and you're beginning to see the light at the end of this tunnel, we still end up on more dinner scenes, for the love of God! But that's it. I did it. 5 hours and 11 minutes of unstructured crap, no story, random character changes for no reason. Just wasted cinematography, wasted actors. You know what, I don't even feel accomplished. I feel lost. I don't know what to do with myself now. I need to just go and think about my future. Let's lighten the tone with Rainbow Dash!